Okay, we'll just make a start now. Great. So this morning, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to who we are and I guess sort of why, why you should listen to us. We're going to give a quick outline around the apprenticeship basics, just so we've got a base level and we'll all understand what apprenticeships are. We're then going to talk about the detail of the free support and funding which is available through this programme. And then we've got our training provider partner, LDN Apprenticeships, on the call, who are going to actually go into a little bit of the detail around multi-channel marketer level 3, what you can expect from it, how they deliver it. And then we're hoping to have a business which has recently had a marketing apprentice to give you a sense of what it's actually like to have an apprentice and a particular marketing apprentice. And then we've got a bit of time for your questions as well. So please do, please do sort of think of a few questions. Feel free to pop any questions into the chat if you're worried about not getting to them later. And then at the end, we'll collate those and hopefully answer all your questions. So also, I think it's worth noting this project is part of the local skills improvement plan for Central London. And yeah, the aim of what we're doing today really is to try and help businesses in the 12 Central London boroughs to engage in quality apprenticeships. So I'm Rob Singh from an organisation called Workwhile. We're a not-for-profit that's funded through philanthropic funds, which was set up back in 2019 with the goal of helping small businesses in London to access apprenticeships. We started off with, I guess, a blank piece of paper and a brief to try and help 1,000 get 1,000 apprenticeships started in London. And in the last few years, we've really expanded that work from supporting around apprenticeships to then looking at how we can actually help create quality apprenticeships. And then we've been more recently helping out larger organisations like Central London Forward with, I guess, tackling that problem of how we can support local residents, local businesses to take on apprenticeships and also to create quality roles which enable progression and sort of real sort of social value. And this slide's just a little bit of showing off, kind of just, I guess, sort of saying that we've got a bit of experience here. We've helped to share £15 million worth of funding for small businesses. We've influenced government policy, and I think this figure's probably a little bit lower than it is. It's a little bit out of date, but a few months ago when I first put this together, we'd supported 1,750 apprentices. I think that's probably a fair bit more than that now. So I think, as I mentioned, I think it's good just to establish exactly what an apprenticeship is, because having worked with small businesses for the last few years, there's quite a lot of misconceptions, quite a lot of old thinking, because what it means to be an apprenticeship has evolved over time. So I think the first thing to note is an apprenticeship it's a job. So it's a paid job with structured formal training as part of it. Typically it's full-time, which is 30+ hours a week, though there are some apprenticeships and some training providers that are able to deliver a part-time apprenticeship, but of course that means that the length of the apprenticeship and the commitment is much longer. So as I mentioned, they're paid as a regular employee, so they get the same benefits like the same sick pay, the same leave, the same benefits that all of your other employees have. And as I said, they're paid. We recommend London Living Wage. I think certainly if you're thinking about a marketing apprentice, that sort of function, but probably should be being paid at the London Living Wage. Within their job, so within that time you're paying them, they'll be spending at least 6 hours a week doing what we call off-the-job training. So off-the-job training is learning which happens, I guess, outside of their main role. So a large bulk of that is the training that the training provider gives them. There are also other bits and pieces like shadowing, which can count towards that. Now, each apprenticeship has a really clear training syllabus. So that's why I've described it as being structured formal learning, in that the industry has come together and formed a trailblazer group and looked at what exactly is needed to function in the role. So each apprentice across the country, for all training providers, have a standard set of knowledge, skills, and behaviours that they're expected to develop at the end of it. So you can be assured that if you have an apprentice, they are gaining a good, solid understanding. They're gaining the right skills that are needed to do the role. Something that a lot of people don't necessarily know is that actually apprenticeships can be offered to existing staff as well as new recruits, and it's a fantastic way of retaining staff. And if you see a little bit of talent in somebody who perhaps hasn't got the skills to do what exactly that they want to get to, or what you need in your organisation, you can use an apprenticeship to upskill them through that. And then also apprenticeships they're not just entry-level roles these days. So a lot of people have that misconception that we're just bringing in young people in really entry-level roles and you've got to train them up. Actually, apprenticeships can go right up to master's level. And the apprenticeship we're talking about today is a level 3 apprenticeship. And then I think the other thing which I feel gives real assurance to small businesses and those taking on apprentices is actually the apprentices are independently assessed by an endpoint assessment organisation. So all the learning that they've done is assessed, and the apprentice can feel assured that they've had that quality education, and you as an employer can be assured that that time that you've given them to study and to train has been well spent. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are a number of benefits to employing apprentices, and I think some of the key ones which I've seen over the years has been the opportunity to reduce staff turnover. We've seen organisations with fairly high turnover take on apprentices and actually suddenly start to see more motivated team members who are staying in role, developing, growing with the organisation, and also through that creating a talent pipeline and improving productivity. And again, as I mentioned earlier, fantastic opportunity to upskill existing staff. We've also seen a lot of the apprenticeships we support have enabled some businesses to attract talent they wouldn't ordinarily be able to tap into if they were just went through their usual recruitment routes, and have really managed to increase diversity across all different measures of diversity. We've seen some male-dominated sectors see an increase in female employees through apprenticeships. We've seen a lot of minority ethnic apprentices really manage to break into sectors which previously felt a little bit closed off for them. There's also a lot of fantastic opportunities for SEND candidates to join organisations through apprenticeships, as often the learning style can be more suited to them. So the programme that we're talking to you today about, it's called the Skills for Central London Digital Cohort. And essentially what it is we've been commissioned by Central London Forward. That's the collection of the 12 most Central London boroughs to help businesses to get started with a digital apprenticeship. So as part of that, if you're interested in this, you can get £11,000 worth of funding through a levy transfer to pay for the training costs of the level 3 multi-channel marketer apprenticeship. We can also provide you with an awful lot of support. So if you need it, we can help you get set up on all the apprenticeship system, so to enable you to gain that funding, also get the apprentice enrolled. We've got some line manager training which we can deliver as part of this, which is something which we developed out of an understanding that a lot of small businesses perhaps haven't had as much line manager training as larger organisations, and like taking on an apprentice sometimes good line management can really help with the success there. And there's some free recruitment support through the local authorities, which is there if needed. We're hoping to build a cohort of SMEs from across central London, which will allow for a bit of peer networking, both line managers, business owners, and the apprentices. And we feel we've chosen a really strong training provider partner in LDN apprenticeships. So just a quick run through of some of the support that we'll be able to give you. So we'll be able to give you some advice and guidance and really sort of get you ready for taking on an apprentice. So the first protocol really, after you've completed the application form for this, is we'll give you a call and talk through sort of where you are and ensure that you're ready to take on an apprentice. Because what we want is for you to be successful and for the apprentices to be successful. We help you get set up on the government portal, the digital apprenticeship service, and then we'll help you to access that funding to pay for the apprenticeship. And then we could, if you need it, we can introduce it to recruitment support from the local authority, and also LDN have a great offer as well. As I mentioned, we feel line managers are really key to success for apprenticeships. So we've developed a programme which gives you a lot of tools, a lot of ways of thinking, which can really support taking on an apprentice, and also have applications beyond apprenticeship. So there's things like being able to have difficult conversations, actually being able to give really effective praise and feedback, and how that can feed into a healthy workplace. There's also a little bit of coaching training as well. We started this as a pilot just over a year ago, and I mean, it looks a bit ridiculous to see it on the screen, but we have had 100% unanimously positive feedback from this. We've also had a check-in 3 months after the training, which is a little bit of sort of coaching sort of conversation, which has been immensely useful for line managers to embed that good practice. So I'm just going to hand over to Marcus from LDN Apprenticeships to actually tell you probably the more exciting content about what the multi-channel marketer apprenticeship is and how LDN can manage that.
Thank you very much, Rob. My name's Marcus Simmons. I'm the Business Development Director at LDN Apprenticeships. Rob, if you don't mind going on to the next slide. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. Obviously, we've gone through a competition to be selected to deliver this programme with Workwhile, and also hopefully we'll get some nice comments from Paul at some point when you hear from one of the line managers that's worked with us before. But I think it's just useful for you to get a bit more confidence in us. We have a 74% all-time achievement. The national average is around 51%. 94% of our apprentices will go on to either stay in that job role, get a new job, or get a promotion for doing it. We're quite diverse in terms of the apprentices that we take on. So we've got people, 17% have free school meals, about 10% have special educational needs. We actually do slightly better with apprentices with special education needs at the moment. And we are an Ofsted outstanding. So like a school, we are inspected, and Ofsted outstanding is obviously the highest we can get in that. We're also a B Corp, which, if you don't understand, is a group of 2,000 organisations in the country that basically committed themselves to supporting social value projects and environmental projects, and we have to do a report on that. But obviously, hopefully, when you work with this, the proof of the pudding is kind of actually dealing with us then. Rob, do you mind moving to the next slide? So what is the Level 3 multi-channel marketer? It's a 16-month programme with 12 months of training and a 4-month endpoint assessment. That's assessed by an organisation called BCS, or the British Computing Society, who will assess at the end of the apprenticeship. In terms of people in the role for multi-channel marketing, it's marketing assistants, it's social media executives. What I really particularly like about the multi-channel marketer is that the breadth of what it covers. So it covers social media, it covers outdoor advertising, it covers every element from start to finish. For SMEs, obviously anybody in a marketing function in SMEs has to be a jack of all trades, and hopefully a master of a few of them as well, in terms of doing it. And you know, this will give somebody the breadth of understanding of how it all fits together. And I think that's the other thing, is also understanding how any marketing campaign, and if you're contributing to part of it. How does the bigger picture look overall? The qualification is a level 3 multi-channel marketer apprenticeship. I will go into a bit more detail when I talk about delivery, but basically we need to deliver within their contracted hours, but it averages around 6 hours a week in terms of doing this sort of time. We give you a full training plan, so that will tell you how many times a month it needs to be done. Endpoint assessment, as I said, is done by a third party and involves a written project and an interview underpinned by a portfolio of evidence. So basically, any apprenticeship is trying to teach the apprentice a set of competencies, and these are knowledge, skills and behaviours. So we do a lot of the knowledge side, but obviously the skills and behaviours are the sort of things that they need to demonstrate in their day-to-day job, and that portfolio of evidence is one way of doing it. They get very used to talking about themselves in the first person. I did this, I did that, going forward. But what do we kind of teach them to give that structure to demonstrate? If you go on to the next slide, Rob, that'd be lovely. So yeah, so what is the content of it? So there's a lot of project work in terms of what we do, but we start off with marketing fundamentals. We talk about marketing analysis, planning and strategy. We talk about marketing content and the communications. We always try and sequence these like an individual project. The sort of tools that you can use and that are available at the moment, how you manage that campaign, and then the analysis and evaluation. And we sequence it that way as well, because that's much how you do any marketing project that you'd be looking at what your plans, what your aims are, how do you actually execute that, what tools do you use to do it, how do you tweak it? The joys of modern technology is that you can continue to tweak it throughout the campaign in doing that. And then obviously at the end, to be able to analyze and evaluate it to make sure that you get the best. If it's not working, you maybe try something different going forward. But we want to give that sort of holistic approach to anybody on the programme in terms of what they do. They have got the skills. So if you need them to do some things in terms of event advertising, they can be involved in that. If it's digital that you want to look at doing, if it's any of those elements, what we want to do is for them to kind of understand whatever you are asking to them do, not only that task itself, but in the context of the wider marketing mix and the wider marketing plan for that apprenticeship. If you want to go to the next slide, Rob. So yeah, how do we deliver the apprenticeship? So obviously we deliver it. We're actually based down in Lambeth at the moment, so probably not too far from any of you in terms of this, but we deliver it predominantly online. We've developed our own online learning content. It is our own content in terms of what we do. We have our team of digital learning designers to actually create that content. So we're not just talking about a set of PDFs online. We're talking about videos. We're talking about pre-reading, post-reading, gamification, all these elements. We take our digital learning design so seriously, we actually deliver a digital learning designer apprenticeship as well on that one. But obviously online learning on its own is probably not enough to support somebody new into your business and support you as a line manager. So we do also have coaching sessions. Well, basically we have a contact point, a one-to-one session every month. So one will be a full coaching session with the line manager involved, to take about maybe an hour to an hour and a half. The line manager's probably there for about 30 minutes. And the other one will be a kind of a performance review every other month, where it's a chance for the apprentice to kind of speak to the skills coach there. Now, our skills coaches all have experience. They're all people that have worked in marketing. We much rather hire somebody that understands the business of what they're about to deliver than necessarily somebody that understands apprenticeships. We're good at that, and we can train them up. So everybody, we've got a wide variety of experience, from people working in publishing, people working with a wide variety of different businesses. So the advantage of that is that they can understand the pains and pressures of working in that environment and really support the apprentice, but then also support the line manager as well. So if they need that support, it's useful for doing that. So there's that contact point. We only tend to have 30 apprentices per skills coach, which is what we call our tutors effectively. So it also allows us to give extra support when we need to, and so on. And it also means we tend to retain those coaches. So 95% of our apprentices start and finish with the same skills coach over the element from there. We also every month have a live session. This is a chance for the apprentices to meet their fellow apprentices online. at the moment. It tends to be very much apprentice-led, so they'll be talking about the things that they do. There's a number of things we're trying to do there. It's really good presenting stuff to embed knowledge. From that perspective, it's really useful because that endpoint assessment does have a presentation element to it. So we want to make sure that if they are maybe a little more nervous about presenting, that they build up that skill. And I'm sure that anybody knows that anybody working in marketing is going to have to present at least once or twice in their life for doing that one. But it's a really good way also of building that network. So not only would they have the Workwhile network that they've got to work with it, they'd also have the rest of our cohort of apprentices. We've got apprentices working at Warner Brothers, we've got apprentices working at furniture firms, a whole raft of different things, and I think it's really useful to kind of understand your job role in a bit of context of the wider sector and the other industries that work. We do also try and do masterclasses in there, so we will invite people in who may be industry experts just to give a bit more support. So if there's a bit talking about AI, which seems to be on everybody's lips at the moment, we'll invite somebody in around that. We have development days. We do offer 2 development days in person in our offices in Lambeth, so the apprentices can actually come and meet their fellow apprentices in person. It's not obligated to do so, but we really do recommend that people come along to that because it's just such a great way of really building and, you know, cementing those relationships. But also it's a great day in terms of learning experience. And over that course of time, they'll develop probably 3 projects. And these aren't projects that they need to do outside of work. They need to be related to what you're doing. You will be doing multiple campaigns for various different things. The project work is really just writing that up and saying, I did this, this worked, I did this, it didn't work, I learned from it, and so on and so forth. And that builds up a portfolio that demonstrates those skills and behaviours in regards to that. Can you go to the next slide, Rob? Yes, I thought that was it. If we've got any questions, we're more than happy to kind of talk outside of this about the apprenticeship overall, but, you know, feel free to speak to Rob as well in regards to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. And yeah, I'm sure you can see from what Marcus talks about that why we've partnered with LDN. They've got a fantastic way of delivering the apprenticeship. So something I just want to quickly talk about before we hopefully meet one of the employers for a marketing apprenticeship is just I mentioned fair pay earlier, and it's something that as an organisation we believe in strongly, and we always speak about. But I think if you're planning to have an apprentice, do please think about paying them at least the London living wage. From what we've seen in the past, it will in the long term save you money as you will attract better candidates, get better retention, and there'll be reduced absenteeism. And we've always seen far more committed and motivated workers. So before we go on to apply, I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment and introduce you to Paul, who who has had a marketing apprentice with LDN apprenticeships recently, and we'll talk to you about your experiences. So welcome, Paul. And yeah, could you just give us a quick intro to you and the organisation, your experience of apprenticeships, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rob and Marcus. It's been great so far, and really appreciate the opportunity. So my name's Paul. I'm a director of a group of companies called the INV Group, and we do a lot of work with public sector in the UK, so in London and the nation. We work with a lot of local authorities and central government departments. And what we do is a lot of our employees are actually apprentices. We've actually been hiring apprentices for 14 years in total, and we've won all sorts of awards for our apprenticeship program, and so we're delighted to be able to speak today. We've been working with LDN on for our last digital marketing apprentice, who actually I line managed. So I'm delighted to be able to come on today and have a little chat about, I guess, my experience with that and how we've got on with LDN and our apprentice. And yeah, happy to take any questions that you've got.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience of having a marketing apprentice, and what sort of impact it has on the team?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, we've been very much involved in apprentice development for a number of years. we see it as very essential to who we are culturally. We're big in social mobility and young people development, and I think that actually, we've really tried to make that a sort of a core part of who we are. And it wasn't always that way. So I noticed on the call we have a couple of folks maybe who are in startup land. They're starting out as a business, and we were like that 10 years ago, right? So we couldn't afford highly paid salaries. We wanted to develop our own talents anyway. And so we wound up hiring 2 apprentices when we only really needed 1. And so Rob, we on our prep call was talking about basically how we found this we stumbled into this buddy system where we hire apprentices and we try to team them up as soon as they come in. And that allows them to buddy up and basically go on to bigger and better things, and also link up with each other and personally develop, not just professionally develop. So that's something that we're really keen on. In our marketing world, we've got 4 companies that are externally facing, and they all have marketing resource. The marketing teams have basically been they've been needing extra resource for certain skills and certain capabilities, and of course we wanted to grow those marketing teams. So working with LDN, we found went through a sort of a recruitment process for the last digital marketing apprentice. It was a level 3 apprentice that we were hiring, I don't think I'll ever forget the interview that I had with him. So Rob, I don't know if you want me to go into a little bit of specifics about the individual, and not so much the individual himself, but just the sort of what we found with our experience.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to sort of hear a little bit of that of the journey, and I guess what attendees could probably expect perhaps from the apprentices themselves.
So first and foremost, I think every single time that we take on an apprentice, we see it as almost a call to action to help somebody and to professionally develop them. And I think whilst you've got this balance of the business needs some skills, you also have this other side of the story, which is you're taking a young person under your wing and you're developing that person into a sort of helping them with their career and their professional development. And that's the way it was with us and our digital marketing apprentice that we hired. I remember the interview I had with him. This was a young person who'd been greatly affected by COVID, had dropped out of university as a result of his COVID experience, wound up going to Manchester. COVID struck. He would walk the streets alone. There would be no one there. He really struggled and he dropped out. And I'm interviewing him, and he's sitting in his bedroom with just a little desk light on. I mean, there was very little natural light in the room. I was like, this guy just needs a light to shine on him. That is exactly where I was with him. He just wanted to prove himself. He was eager. He was keen. And this young lad's come in and basically helped us enormously from a tech standpoint. I run a digital and tech meetup group out in Surrey called Surrey Devs, which is kind of almost outside of our company. This young apprentice has helped us with our video marketing. So whenever I pull in digital leaders from around our area, this apprentice has been able to film us, record that, process that. And then I said to him whimsically one day, I said, you know what, it would be great if we could get a YouTube channel going with all of our videos. He comes to me like, 4 weeks later, he goes, yeah, I've got that YouTube channel live. And I was like, wow, this is super impressive. And so basically, I think what you've got with apprentices is you've got fantastic initiative, you've got drive, you've got desire, and in a culture where they can feed off each other and succeed, they're going to definitely serve your business time and time again.
That's fantastic to hear. So you've said you've had a number of apprentices over the years. So
yeah,
how's the retention been? And have you where have they gone within the company or beyond?
Yeah, perfect. Great question. So our retention's off the charts. We keep our apprentices for a number of years, as in they want to stay. Not that we force people. Our apprentices usually come in around the age of 18, although increasingly since COVID, we're seeing a lot of young folks come in and do a pivot in the career. So we've, in fact, I'm looking at a young gentleman right to my left who worked in the pub industry for a number of years, young 30s, and he just wanted to become a software development apprentice, and he was really interested in being a software engineer, and so he just pivoted his entire career, did a reset on his whole life, and basically came in and worked with us. We are increasingly seeing university graduates come in as well, who've basically studied one particular subject. Another software development apprentice that we have studied geography at a well-known university up in the Midlands, and then basically went, you know what, actually I want to be a software engineer. So we have a high retention rate. I think one of the things that helps us is, if I were to articulate the things that you need to do as an employer, one is you have to embrace apprenticeships. You can't just simply say, we're gonna hire one or two apprentices and stick them in a corner and just hope they succeed, sort of thing. This is an investment. It's an investment on your part as an employer. It's an investment on their part as an apprentice. Just never lose sight of that. It's an investment of all sorts of things, not just time and energy and money, but just two lives. Yours, the line managers, and the apprentice are being sort of brought together to develop yourselves over the next sort of few months as the apprentice goes through their program. The second thing I would say is that, again, we stumbled on that buddy system. That really works well for us. So if you've got a lot of, or a few people who are coming in as an apprentice, try to find somebody else that they can sort of link up with to share not just their professional journeys and their educational journeys, but their personal journeys, because they're young, and you can probably tell, Rob, I'm not that young, and so when you want to bring young folks together and give them a chance to bond and grow together personally, and I think that's a key part of our success. And then finally is from a selfish standpoint for our company, again, we're big in tech, and so we kind of have a tech bias, and in the tech industry, there's often a cultural trait of meritocracy. So we operate our business on a meritocracy basis, meaning that you can come in as an 18-year-old apprentice and see the opportunity to go be a senior leader, a managing director, and that opportunity exists for you. We have a very flat structure, so we can anyone in our business can kind of come in, ask me or our group CEO any kind of question, day or night, and they're going to get an answer. And I think from that standpoint, the meritocracy allows apprentices to come in and see that there's potential for growth, for professional development, and for promotion. So of the 4 external companies we have, 3 of them are led by managing directors who are in their sort of like around the age of 30 or so, who started off with us as an apprentice at the age of 18.
Wow. That's fantastic progression.
Yeah, it means a lot to us, and I've spoken before about how I think we started off being a tech company serving public sector and a lot of good folks in public service world, and then we wound up not pivoting per se, but actually just evolving as a company. We're actually the apprenticeship program and a couple other things. We're big in accessible design and accessibility experiences. So those 2 areas, we've kind of, as we've evolved as a company, those have almost become who we are culturally. The apprenticeship program, if you really embrace it, becomes a part of who you are, and you'll be better for it.
That's fantastic to hear. My final question really is, what advice would you give to small businesses thinking about taking their first steps into the world of apprenticeships?
I would say understand that there's an investment that you'll need to make, number one, and number 2 is that it's always going to pay dividends. So no matter how arduous or difficult it is, you're gonna win in the long run. There's a couple of reasons why everyone wins with this. First and foremost, you have talent coming into your business who's eager and keen to win and to succeed and to grow. They come with you on your company's or your organization's development. And so they're there at a young age, maybe, and they see the organization grow and develop, and then they want to be part of that path. And the next thing you know, you turn around like 5 years, 8 years later, and you're like, oh, well, this person's now a supervisor or manager or something, and they started off as an apprentice. I think that's the number one thing I would say is that it's a big investment for both parties, and just don't lose sight of that. It's a great thing as a result of that. I think the other thing I would say is that, I mean, Rob, I think you and I probably share this sentiment, but I would say that the idea, apprentices and apprenticeships are now seen on a very level pegging as any kind of higher education degree. And I could argue that actually in a tech world, maybe not so much in a digital marketing world, although I don't know, I think it's questionable. The notion of education is changing radically, right? We see with the launch of ChatGPT 4.0 this week, which is yet another evolution of OpenAI's ChatGPT. The notion of education is going to substantially change over the next 5 years. We won't recognize it. And the idea that you can sit in a classroom, and which I did during my time, right? Sit in a classroom, have a professor at one sort of end of the room, teach a whole room full of students about something. It's good, and there are definitely places where higher education work and is the right approach. But for a lot of professional development, apprenticeships is really where you're going to get hands-on learning, and you're going to learn how to actually be part of a business, which is going to help that young person coming into your organization.
Right. I had a question from the chat, I guess, around sort of breaking down some of the costs associated with taking on an apprentice. Yeah, what sort of costs did you see, I guess, aside from salary?
Well, so firstly, you made a point about the living wage. We signed up to the living wage pledge for a number of years, and so I mean, the way that I would look at it is really simple. It's from a cost standpoint, it's obviously a lot cost effective. It's a lot more cost effective to bring in an apprentice and to get them to do a job. Just to be clear, we have a lot of our tech apprentices. Will actually, 6 to 9 months into their apprenticeship, they'll be in a place where they're out with our clients and working on real projects. So if you want to call it a recoupment of your investment in that apprenticeship, we're seeing it within 6 to 9 months in most cases when it's something that is something that, if we were a digital marketing agency, we'd be in the same place where you could take a digital marketing apprentice and probably 6 to 9 months get them out and do actually client-focused work. In terms of the investment, the salaries are really, really low, right? I mean, obviously, to begin with, as in, if I'm going to go hire a marketing professional, I'm probably looking at I don't know, London wage of who knows, between 30 and 50,000, depending on their skill sets and their background. And you're obviously nowhere near that with an apprenticeship. So the cost of hiring the apprentice and getting them going, it's a very minimal salary as they're doing their apprenticeship program. We promote them obviously to the living wage as soon as we can, and make sure they get paid that, and then they get promoted like a step program off the back of that. And then I think so when they graduate from their program, during their apprenticeship program, we pay their travel. I'm not sure if everyone needs to or has to do that, but we do. We pay for all of our apprentices' travel. We're big on, I know it's a hybrid working world, and everyone's kind of curious about, well, can you have an apprentice work from home a lot and all that? We don't really do that. If somebody's in their apprenticeship program, at least for me, I'm like, get you into the office as much as I can, because I need to see you and you need to see me, and we need to have a chat and get to know each other, that kind of thing. But on the same side, we're investing in that young apprentices' travel, and so it doesn't really affect them too much. As long as the trains are running, then they're okay to come into the office, sort of thing. So the investment is actually, I think, it's minimal, and actually I think the return is huge. So yeah, I don't know if that helps, Rob, or not.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Paul. I'm just going to talk about sort of how to apply, and then we're going to sort of come back for a Q&A. So if you don't mind staying on, Paul, it'd be great to get some of your answers to some of these questions as well. So I'm just going to share my screen again for a moment, just to show people how to engage in the program. Then we're going to go. We've got a few questions already coming into the Q&A. We can ask those as a team. You can just bear with me a moment. I seem to have come into Teams a different way. Great. So just going to show this slide around sort of how to apply to the program. And then we've got a bit of time for your questions. So we'll send you the details of this. So don't feel you have to write down this URL. We'll share details after this. I think Emma may have put it in the chat already. So the eligibility really is that you're a small business in one of the 12 central London boroughs. That you've got 15 or more employees, ideally 20, I think, really, to get that good experience. I think some of those things that Paul was talking about around sort of buddying, I think that comes into its own a bit more when you've got a slightly larger team or team that's able to do that. It is open to new and existing employees. So do think about your existing team as well. All sectors are considered. We've seen people from businesses from across all sectors engaging in multi-channel marketing in the past, and it can have some fantastic impact. And again, just to labour the point, but we'd like to see the apprentice being paid that London living wage as well. So we're going to open up to your questions. So Paul and Marcus, I might direct some of these to you as well. So we've got a question around, do we pay the apprentice salary while they study for that 6 hours? Yes. So the 6 hours that they're on the training is part of their working week. So they are paid for that. And then a related question to that is the minimum number of hours. So for a full-time apprenticeship, it's 30 hours a week. There are part-time apprenticeships, but Marcus, could you answer I guess your experience of part-time apprenticeships, or whether you offer them?
I think we have worked with people working part-time. I think it starts to become quite difficult to do an apprenticeship over if it's less than 25 hours. The duration increases proportionally. Now, I'd love to say off the top of my head, I have got a chart somewhere where I can put this all in, but basically, if you're down to 25 hours, you're probably looking at closer to 20 months for the program. So it just starts to go up. And if you get much longer than that, it's a very long time. And actually, we think in apprenticeships, that idea of being available and being around other members of staff is so key for doing it, that when you're working part-time, it's harder to negotiate that time we spent with other people. I mean, I really liked some of the comments in terms of making sure that they're in the office as much as possible. We have got apprentices that are purely remote, but I think any contact time that you can get is really useful. But yes, I would always talk to somebody about a part-time apprenticeship, but we just need to do that. Also, if you're a school, there's slightly different ways around that. There's slightly regulations, but we could talk to that on an individual case-by-case basis. Does that kind of answer your question, Rob?
Yeah, I think so. I think something I'd add to that as well is I think with some apprenticeships, when you start to stretch them out a bit longer through being part-time, it kind of almost feels like the apprentice is in stasis, and they're kind of stuck at that level where you'd really want to see them as they're growing sort of start to develop and sort of keep that interest. So yeah, I think, as you said, it is possible, but actually there's probably a better experience at 25 hours plus, really. So there's a question for Paul from the chat as well, which is, can you tell us a bit more about how you found and recruited your apprentices, and I guess what sort of strengths and potential you look for when hiring?
That's great question. So apprenticeship providers are obviously a huge part of that. LDN here for us on this particular digital marketing apprentice was a big part of it. I think it's really important, and actually just touching on the importance of the apprenticeship provider real quickly, just to be clear, LDN, they're not paying me to say this. I think it's absolutely essential to have a great apprenticeship provider to help you navigate this area without a shadow of a doubt. And in terms of sort of the applicants that we see, and we're going to get filtered, I guess, with our apprenticeship provider. I think the other thing I would say about the apprenticeship provider real quickly is the importance of the skills coach. And I would shout out to this particular skills coach who's been working with our digital marketing apprentice, a guy named Alex Ramsden. Fantastic skills coach, highly knowledgeable in digital marketing, and absolutely essential for our apprentice going through the last 10 months as he's coming to the end of his apprenticeship. I don't think he would have succeeded anywhere near as well if he didn't have that skills coach. In terms of the qualities of the people that we're looking for, you can tell really quickly to me I'm not looking for any kind of skills, right? I'm looking for qualities, cultural traits, and characteristics. And those characteristics I'm looking for, or we look for in our organization, are drive, first and foremost, desire, eagerness, I think a curiosity, sort of an intellectual curiosity perhaps, but not necessarily, but basically a curiosity about how things work and how business grows and how they themselves can improve. You put all those things together, and I think if you can get those, you're great. Don't worry about anything else. Things like communication skills you can improve on, you can work on, leadership skills you can work on in the future. And understand that particularly for young people coming into your organization, if they're south of the age of 20, for instance, and perhaps even older, they themselves are still figuring out who they are, right? And so be patient and understand that. But the key traits that you're looking for really are drive, desire, curiosity, and a desire to kind of push on to new things.
Thanks, Paul. Did you have anything to add, Marcus? I know you.
We work with a fair few, and I agree with all of the things you said there, Paul. Actually, to be honest, I think one thing that's really useful, and this is probably more about how you kind of manage apprentices, but it's about that sort of ability to take feedback and to grow. We quite often ask people to work trial any apprentice and just getting a little experience of that feedback at the moment, because obviously you're quite often having somebody that's reasonably unformed and they haven't got the competencies that you would normally hire them on. But what you want to know is, if I give you 5 pieces of feedback, do you take 3 or even more on that? And I think that's the thing that comes really important. So it's that ability to kind of, that inquiring mind, but that ability to take feedback on and kind of grow with it, because if they can't take that sort of feedback, then it becomes a much harder journey in terms of doing it. So I would always include some element of feedback just to see how that kind of response occurs in any of your recruitment process.
Great, thanks, Marcus. I think I'd just add to that, by I guess in terms of the sort of where to find people question, in that we're working closely with each of the local authorities in the central region, and they do each have quite decent recruitment services where there are willing applicants who they vet and ensure that they're, I guess, at that level to be able to take on the apprenticeship, which can provide some quite decent interview candidates. Was there any more questions from the audience? Sorry, I'm just having a look at the chat whilst trying to. So we had one comment, I guess, around sector. So looking at whether, I guess whether business to business sort of marketing would work for this, and I guess that the multi-channel marketer standard is wide. There's a lot of applications. I think there's a lot of applications across sectors as well. I think if anyone's, if anyone wants to find out a bit more, we're happy to have a conversation. And if there's something we can't answer, we can certainly hand you to Marcus to answer as well.
Definitely.
I just want to check whether there are any other questions I've not picked up on.
I think that's everything we've got for today. Yeah, no problem.
Fantastic. Well, I guess to close, we feel we've got a fantastic opportunity for small businesses in London to tap into, I think, some really excellent training through an outstanding training provider. But there's also a lot that we're offering you to help make that as smooth as possible. So, like I mentioned, we have line manager training, we have a bit of support around actually getting set up, and we're here to also give you a bit of support around thinking about how ready you are and helping you to get there. So initial applications are 16th of June. So there's a short and have a conversation with you. I guess ensure that you're comfortable with everything, and at that point we'll pass you over to the team at LGN who'll start to enrol you. And in the background, we'll be finding that helping to connect you with that bit of funding to pay for the training. And that's it. Thank you for joining us today. So would Marcus or Paul, did you have anything you wanted to say finally, or should we close it there?
I mean, I just to say thank you everybody for attending. It's been really useful. Thank you, Paul, for your kind words. That's appreciated. I will pass that on to Alex to let him know. And just if you've got any questions about it, do contact the team at Workwhile. We're more than happy to kind of walk anybody through the processes involved. We've been doing this for 13 years. We started off very much with organisations that are taking on their first apprentices and everything else. So hopefully we've learned a thing or two, and we're more than happy to kind of guide you through that process, as I'm sure are the rest of the team at Workwhile. So thank you once again for coming.
Cool. And I would just like to say, if anyone wants to reach out and get in touch with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Zimmerman at the INV Group. And if you're interested in any kind of sort of employer-based kind of feedback or questions that you didn't get on the call, happy to put you in touch with our HR team, great HR team who deal with our apprenticeship development program and have been doing for a number of years. I'm more than happy to sort of answer any kind of employer-based questions that you might have. Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
And thanks, Paul and Marcus. And that kind offer as well, Paul. I think it's really useful to have a peers view on this sort of thing. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to close the event now. Have a great rest of your day.